What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. I know we've been on that huge Gran Turismo 2 Plus Let's Play grind, and this video is kind of coming up in between. It's a rare 3 upload week for you guys, and today we're going to be talking about kind of the features I wish Gran Turismo 7 had. Now today you're seeing my 2023 SACI Formula Gran Turismo competition car, which is actually the banner of the channel right now. I'll talk more about the SACI towards the end of this. And probably sprinkled throughout, but the video is not focusing on the esports stuff. We're focusing on features I wish Gran Turismo 7 had. Now, the main thing that I think Gran Turismo 7 really should have is a more realistic damage model. A common complaint and why people sometimes, and I really can't stand it when people do this, consider Gran Turismo 7 an arcade racer, which I consider games more like Need for Speed or Forza Horizon, is because of the lack of race-ending damage. Now, obviously, I know why they do this. It's to increase, people want to replay it, because obviously if you're playing Gran Turismo and you're racing the AI in the Sunday Cup and you hit a wall and your car is destroyed and you can't continue and you have to restart the race, obviously, especially for the younger crowd, they're going to get ticked off and they're not going to want to play anymore. So I understand the process behind that, but in my opinion, I think it should be an option to where, say, you're driving the F1500T chassis car from Polyphony's own dealership and you eat it at Dragon Trail, and your wheel should come off like in an actual F1 car. When you hit a wall hard enough, your wheel pops off. Now, obviously, let's not do F1 2022 or F1 21 damage levels where you tap a wall even remotely briefly. You touch an atom on a wall, and your car just disintegrates. But add some realism. Let's get a little bit more realistic damage model. If you hit a wall, your front wing comes off, or if you're doing a drift race and you eat the wall, you overcook it and you lose your wing. Stuff of that nature. I think that's something that should be definitely added into Gran Turismo 7. The next thing is going to be more tracks. Now, obviously, I know that at the time this video is being made, I think we're on 1.31. So we've got plenty of tracks. Now, here's the thing, though, as I want to see more retro tracks, more tracks from the Gran Turismo days of old. Most notably, some tracks such as like Red Rock Valley, my personal one I've been looking for a while, and I've been just dreaming of its return since I was a kid. Special Stage Route 11. I know I'm probably one of the very select few that loves that track. Special Stage Route 11 holds a very special place in my heart, despite its extreme difficulty. I've harped on it a lot, especially during the Gran Turismo 2 Plus Let's Play, about how I wish that Special Stage Route 11 didn't get axed. I really miss that track, and I really hope that Polyphony will start adding a lot of their more retro tracks. I mean, obviously, they've done so already. We've got Grand Valley back, which was something that was kind of cool, even if it's not in its original state, which I have grown to love. Highway 1. When they first dropped this track, I was completely against it. I thought it was abysmal and sacrilegious to what Grand Valley once was. But as I've, driven it more, I mean, it's kind of my go-to track for practicing because it's a fast track, but it's also technical. So it's a good go-to track for practicing with cars. That I've been putting in hundreds of laps on that track since it came out, whether it be in my F1500 or my SF19 that I've been training with for years now. Well, I say years, but, since this game came out. And even my 600 pp race car that I'm going to be using for that series in the SACI, which was just an absolute blast on this track. I've been using it as a test track, as you can see on the time trial sheet. If I just quickly pull it up, you can see very quickly that I've racked up quite a number of lap times out here. I don't know why this one's still here. I swore I deleted this, but anyway. It's like you see I've done tons and tons and tons of laps out here in various cars to various success. Lots of slow times, lots of fast times. I mean, we've got, two sub 130s, which I think is fairly fast for Highway 1. This one I'm working on trying to close in on this one. I mean, the AI is running 126s in the F1500, so obviously I've got some room for improvement in these things. But, I mean, just this track was kind of a nice add-in, but I think that they need to bring more retro tracks back in their original state. Obviously, we know Apricot Hill is hiding somewhere in the data. It's been hinted at. I don't know if it's been hiding in the data per se. It's a misspoken phrase, so ignore that part. But I know Apricot Hill has been heavily hinted at. Lots of people expect Apricot Hill to come back, and I really hope it does, because I would love to see that track again. It was a really fun track as a kid. Obviously, I would most love to see Special Stage Route 11, Tokyo R246, of course, and of course, a heavy hitter for me is Midfield Raceway, which was for a time my quote-unquote home track, because it was just the track I knew best. I did thousands of laps of Midfield when I was younger, and into my adult years. I won one of my first esports races at Midfield. It's a track that's extremely special to me, and I would love to see that one come back. I mean, we got Grand Valley. I think it's only right we get some of those other ones back. Obviously, we got Trial Mountain back, which is great. That's another really iconic track. We've got Deep Forest back, which is another really iconic track. But I do think we need to see some more of those older retro tracks that a lot of us have come to know and love. So the next thing I think should be added is a bit more variety in the cars. Gran Turismo has been guilty of this for a long time, and that is having a very Japanese-centric car list. I mean, obviously the game's based in Japan, and JDM culture is by far the biggest culture of cars. And I'm not saying to cut down on the JDM stuff, but equal it out. Add more American cars, add more European cars. And obviously, we've gotten a lot of European... Like, America's gotten all the focus on tracks, obviously with Road Atlanta and Grand Valley. Road Atlanta being my actual home circuit, and having Grand Valley. I mean, they're both classified as American tracks, which is, cool, I guess. But the American car roster, they've added, like, 1 or 2 cars recently, and like, some of the updates. It's a very slim amount of American cars that have been added. Even less so that are easily accessible. I mean, you have the C8, which is really cool. But like Europe's been getting a lot of pandering on the cars, which is cool. It's mostly been Porsche, but it's nice to see at least some new additions that weren't there before. Especially with Porsche, this is their first full main series game. I don't consider GT Sport a main series game. I consider that a spin-off, but I do think we need to see some other cool stuff. I think obviously as a Volkswagen owner, I'd love to see more Volkswagens put in the game. I think we need more new cars, like stuff that's come out in the last year or two. We need like the G80 M3, the new M2, not the F series, not the F chassis M2 that we wound up getting. I would like to see the new G87 put in the game. And a lot of people don't like the G87 M2, but I actually kind of dig it. It's grown on me a lot. I think the G80 obviously is thrown in here. I mean, we've got, the RS6 Avant be a good add-in. I mean, we got the RS5 Turbo DTM, which is a really, really good car. I actually got it a couple of days ago, and I adore this thing. It's really fun. It is a nightmarishly challenging to drive at first. Once you get familiar with it, you're golden. But obviously, like the TTRS needs to be in here. I don't understand why they continue to use like the TTS. I think the TTRS, the RS3 would be good options in here. I know there's still a lot of cars from that like big data leak, whatever it's called. And it was like a bunch of cars, and I know the E60 M5's on the list, which is really cool. It's one of my favorite cars ever made. But I'd like to see a lot of new stuff, like 2020, 21, 22, 23 model year cars, more than what we already have. And we have the C8, and we have like the new Z. Obviously, we have 2 versions of the Mark V Supra, which is fine and dandy, but I think we need to see some more variety in there as well. I think it'd be cool for them to add the 2-liter Supra. I would have much rather them done that instead of stick the 2019 and the 2020 model Supra 3.0s. I think adding the Japanese SZ model would have been cool to see as well. Less BS cars. Like I don't understand the Alphard's existence here. I get that they wanted to add something kind of wonky, but like it's just such a weird car to have in here. I hear some people were saying it's actually fairly good. I obviously don't have one, so I can't attest to that, but I think that it's just kind of a weird choice to have in GT7. But like I said, there's just a lot of Japanese brands that get a lot of the love. There's a lot of Japanese cars. And I think that while not cutting down on those Japanese cars, we need more, especially American cars, as our American lineup. I mean, it's pretty limited. Obviously, there's lots of cars from certain brands that you would think should be here. Like you go to Infinity, you only have the concept VGT. There's no G35, there's no G37, there's no Q50, no Q60 Red Sport, stuff of that nature. I think it's just kind of unfortunate. Even as much as I dislike Tesla, you have the same Model S that debuted in Gran Turismo 6. The Roadster's gone, which was a car that was in Gran Turismo 5, if I remember correctly. But you have the original Model S, and I think that's just something that should be fixed. I think they need to add the Plaid and stuff like that. The Model 3, of course, which is very popular. As much as I don't like Tesla, I think that even they need to have, new stuff added. Obviously, we've got the Dodge Demon that should be in here. We have, the C8 Z06 just launched. I think that's a car that should have been immediately put into this game. Ford, I mean, you've got, the brand new Mustang is getting ready to come out here soon. I'm thinking dealers are starting to get this new one. What's been called the S650. The GT500 isn't in here, the new GT500, which I think is kind of sacrilegious. I mean, we have the 350. The 350 is great, but I think that needs to be the other, full-on race car. The full fat GT500. But those are some cars that I wish were added, and I think that's just another thing that I wish Gran Turismo 7 had. Alright, so the next one, we are going to dive a little bit into esports stuff. We're going to go to our multiplayer lobbies here. Now, this is a pretty, in my opinion, my biggest gripe with Gran Turismo 7 is features that were missing and online from Gran Turismo 6. Obviously, things have improved as they've added features over time. They've added, qualifiers, which were, I think, in Gran Turismo 6. I can't remember. It's been so long since, the Gran Turismo 6 online days were a thing. I was very active in Gran Turismo 6 online. But last I remember, it had qualifiers and stuff, which is fine and dandy. And it has a lot of stuff already in there to limit. But when you come in here, you have, obviously, your race type. You do race for real, stuff like that. When we do SICI events, we do race for real. You can pick your track, what kind of event you're doing, whether you're doing an endurance race, whether you're doing a lap race, your conditions. You can do custom weather, which is really cool. You can kind of keep it hidden. You can do your grid order, your tire wear, all that stuff, which is all fine and dandy. And for races that allow nitrous, obviously you can have that. But my issue is when you come down to regulations. Now, obviously, you have your category filters, which for the most part cover most cars. Now, let's say you're in our shoes at the SACI. We do Formula events. Last year, we used the SF19, and it was really hard to regulate those races because there's no way to limit it to just Formula cars, as the Formula cars, whether it be the SF, the F1500T, or the even the X2019s, they aren't given a class or a category, so you can't just pick those cars. You have to just put it in the title of your room, of your lobby, and just hope that people will listen and follow what you want to do. I mean, you can mess with minimum weight, you can mess with stuff like that, but it's just really hard to do. It's really hard to set up. Obviously, if you want to do karting, it's easy to do. You just turn on kart usage. But I think for certain vehicles, obviously there's several high-profile cars that aren't given a category. And so that really delegates them to full unlimited racing, which is where you're going to run into Tomahawk X's and stuff, which are just impossible to beat in any other car that isn't a Tomahawk X. And it makes it extremely difficult to do. Obviously, when we were doing the Formula Gran Turismo last year, it proved to be just an absolute dumpster fire because we would have races where we would set up, we'd have a field of Formula cars, and someone would try to sneak in with like a Group 3, 4, 5, 8 Italia or a Tomahawk, which was a common one we had to fight. We actually had to put a max horsepower limit to at least kick the Tomahawk X out. People were still trying to bring Tomahawk S's and GTSRs to run against the SF19s, which obviously isn't a Formula car. So I think that Gran Turismo definitely needs to add, either classify the Formula cars, whether it be the F1500T, on its own category, which is what I would prefer. I prefer all the Super Formulas because I know we're getting the SF23 pretty soon. All four, like the SF19 and 23s, are given their own class. And obviously that 1500T gets its own category, so when you come in here, you can just do that. Or, better yet, give us a one-make category where you can pick a car from your garage and it's locked to only that car, which was a feature that I believe was in Gran Turismo 6. I missed that feature. It would make running these Formula events so easy. And, it would keep a lot of people out of, trying to just hijack the races and run Tomahawks all the time. These children that get this game, obviously, like, oh, I've got the fastest car in the game, I'm going to use it whenever I want. And, obviously, when you're trying to run an esports race with, these F1500s or these SF19s, it proves to be extremely difficult. I think online, this game has so much room to improve. Now, obviously, like I said, they've added stuff that's made it better. Obviously, you have the refuel speed, which is really nice because that's how we actually make pit stops mandatory, because you can't force the pit stop. It's another thing Gran Turismo 6 had that I wish would come back, is mandating pit stops. We would have races where we would swap tires, and then some people just would go the entire race in one set, even if they blew them out and wore them out completely at the end of the race. And I think that was a nice thing to have to make races more realistic. Most race categories in real life will force you to pit stop at least once and swap tires. Some events, such as Formula One, even make you switch compounds. I don't know what other categories do that, if they're not the only one that does that, but obviously it's really difficult to run on one make on GT7's online. I think there's just a lot of stuff that should be added back from GT6's online days that make GT7 so tolerable. Now, the last thing I want to talk about very briefly is the improvement of the community aspect. Now, GT7 tried to grow off of GT Sport, which in my opinion was a failed attempt at reviving Gran Turismo 6's community. Gran Turismo 6 had an insane online, community setup in game, and I really loved it because you were able to run your own car clubs. I had one that had like 200 and something people in it. And pretty much anytime I got in an online lobby, if I really just liked someone, if they were just a kind of a clean driver and they built good cars and stuff like that, I did a lot of drag racing back in the day in GT6. I would invite them to join that club. Now, obviously, here we don't have that same thing going on. You just have, your following list. It behaves more like a social media app now, which I mean is fine. But I do think that there needs to be some changes to make it a bit more friendly with, or familiar to GT6 users and stuff like that. By the way, random shout out, this Little Spike GTS guy, if you're into the racing modified stuff from the original Gran Turismo and Gran Turismo 2, he posts a ton of these liveries. I've run a few of them on some of my cars, and I adore his work. So be sure to go check out his stuff in the game and go pick up some of his liveries if you have cars that are available, that he's made liveries for and you want to run them. All in all, though, that's just really good stuff. But anyway, I think that about covers everything for this video. I think that's all the stuff from GT7 that I wish it had that it doesn't. So hope you all enjoyed. I will see you guys next time. Next video is probably going to be another GT2 Plus video. Those are kind of reaching the end of what I have recorded. I recorded 22 episodes, and the last one goes up on April 30th. So hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer for the conclusion of that for now. I'm going to take a break from them after this is done because, I mean, it's, it was 22 straight uploads of GT2 Plus. And I've really enjoyed that game. It's been a really fun video series to make, and I love playing it. But, obviously I put, an absurd amount of hours into it for this series. Obviously not as much as I have played time on GT7, as you can see. Even driven time is almost 100 hours. I've got 340 hours in this game. I have no life. But, I've really enjoyed GT2 Plus. It's been a fantastic game. I'm going to do a full circle review at the end of the Let's Play of the GT2 Plus mod. The creator of GT2 Plus mod actually commented on one of my recent episodes of that. I think it was what was it, episode 15, I think? Whichever one is the most recent in the bunch right now. Which one is the most recent? It was the ZR1 video, so it's not the most recent. It was episode 13. So he commented on episode 13, which I think was just really cool. But anyway, guys, I've hogged up your time enough. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.